of Monday, March 20th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to everyone in the audience. Ask for a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of our March 6, 2023 meeting, which you have a copy of, approval of the bills and claims, which you also probably have a copy of, and the following licenses and permits. A liquor license, Class C retail alcohol license, Lakeside Landing. Special Class C retail alcohol license, Lake Theater. Class C retail alcohol license, Veterans Memorial Golf Club. And those are all renewals. Excavators license, Mayor's Digging Company, NIS Excavation Incorporated, and those are also renewals, and a street closing request by the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce for Earth Day activities on Saturday, April 22nd. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Once again, motion passes 5-0. On to the citizens' address or opportunity to address the council in conformance to rules of procedure. No action can occur on any items presented. Please walk to the lectern, state your name and address, and you're going to be limited to no more than 5 minutes per person. None appearing, we will move on to unfinished business, which, as far as I know, there is none. And now, on to new business. Item A, Traffic Safety Improvement Program Funding Agreement for 27th Avenue South and South 8th Street / Grouse Avenue. Review by Mr. Flory, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Council members, this is always the meeting where I have to remind everyone that when we approve Mayor's Digging Company, it's A-Y-E-R, not A-Y-O-R. Right. Digging Mayor's sounds a little dubious.
You're reaching there. My students used to call that a groaner.
Okay, well, we'll go to the items in the packet. So these are the yellow sheets in your packet. First item is a resolution approving the funding agreement between the city and the Department of Transportation for the Traffic Safety Improvement Program funding grant application in the amount of $15,090, and that's for traffic control improvements to the intersection of 27th Avenue South and South 8th Street and Grouse Avenue. Then the yellow sheets that continue on are just the actual agreement itself. The very backside of the last yellow sheet, I just call your attention again to the concept and opinion of probable cost that we put together for this traffic safety improvement program. You'll see the total cost, again, that we sought funding for from the DOT was the $15,090. We were approved in full by the DOT for that amount, and the project, again, consists of, as you'll note there, all the items related to those intersection improvements, such as 2 sets of rumble strips, pavement marking stop bars, flashing beacons that are solar powered, sign replacement, and posts for new signs to be placed. That work will all be done in-house, so those are basically material cost reimbursements to the city for that. We'll have some electrical work that I'm sure we'll have to probably farm out, but otherwise it'll be all done in-house with Public Works Department staff. So just in terms of some review on this one, goes back quite a ways. As we always say, things in government move kind of slow, and so this is probably a pretty good example of that. Back in December of 2021, we had submitted what we call a traffic engineering assistance program application, and that was submitted to the DOT for approval, and they approved that later that month. Actually, I think it went in November, and I think they approved it in December, and that provided funding for a traffic safety study for that intersection of 27th Avenue South and South 8th Street. The wheels moved a little slow on that. They go through an RFP process, ultimately selected a consultant, Howard R. Green, to do a traffic analysis at that intersection. Several of you were involved with conversations on that project as well. The study was completed, I think it was in June of 2022. That provided us with an opportunity to sit down, kind of review the recommendations and findings, conclusions that were part of that study that was prepared by Howard R. Green. Then we determined at that point we would make an application to the Traffic Safety Improvement Program Fund with the DOT. And the application for that was due in August, so we got that in time. Again, the study identified, when we went through this previously, a number of opportunities there. The one we selected is what we had applied for with these flashing beacons, intersection warning signs, and plaques, and those kinds of things at that intersection. So December, we were notified by the DOT that our application was being fully funded, and so we're here tonight to ask for your approval of the funding agreement between the DOT and the city for this. So once that is approved, then we would start to get the order in for these different traffic control devices, so that I know there'll be some lead times on some of those. This project is an FY24 project, so it means we're not able to really do it until after July of this year, but we want to at least make sure we've got all the stuff in the queue and ordered and ready to be delivered, so that come July we're able to get that installed. So because of the size of the amount, there's no formal bidding required here. The only thing we have to do is just avoid incurring any actual expenses prior to the start of the fiscal year. So. And I don't have anything further unless anyone has any questions on that.
Council, any questions?
Yes, Scott, is SEH, are they going to come up with a plan of this layout for the traffic signals stuff?
There's
signage?
Yep, we've got all that. So that's basically what we put in when we put in the application.
Okay.
The same plan, nothing's changed on that.
Any thoughts about speed out there?
That
Reductions?
was not part of that recommendation, no. If you recall, some of the recommendation that, oftentimes this was, I think Councilman Smith kind of initiated all of this after another rather severe broadside collision there. So they looked at all these issues there, and oftentimes people say, well, let's make it a four-way stop, or put traffic signals up, or change the speed limit, and these kinds of things. None of those things were recommended by the traffic engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I was just going to say, yeah, thank you, Scott. I appreciate all the work you put into this, too, to coordinate with the DOT. And again, I always appreciate how we approach these kinds of issues with doing the study that we did, and as you pointed out, to take the appropriate steps that we think will add to the safety down there. And I think these are very prudent steps that we've done here at a very reasonable cost, and hopefully will, again, just be a proactive way of improving the safety profile of that intersection. So,
Yep.
Thank you very much.
If you recall, there weren't that many accidents at that intersection. There were only about 4 in the
Right.
period studied. I think it was a 4-year period, but they were severe, and most of them involved people running the stop sign.
Yeah, and that was interesting too. You're right in terms of the number there, and it's an interesting intersection because it appears to be very clear and able to see.
Plenty of visibility.
But on the other hand, for some reason, as you said, there's been these accidents there. And I think these improvements, again, at a very small cost, will hopefully dramatically improve that, so.
And there were longer range suggestions as part of that study, but as you mentioned, when we talked about it as a group, to submit the application, let's go with the more short-term opportunities first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And if that area continues to grow out there in terms of housing and population density, we can certainly look at long-term options. But Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
And you're right, the sight distance is good all four ways there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The only thing catches my attention that I would ask a question about is there any type of a new sign that will welcome the visitors coming over the hill from the south in terms of this being a dangerous intersection?
That one's outside the city limits, but we can sure work with the county on putting
Well,
something like that up.
You know, obviously the flashers at the stop sign are critical, but I almost wonder if some sort of a flasher on a sign as the northbound drivers come over that hill, because sometimes something to kind of jar you a little bit awake that, you know, there's something I got to pay attention to. And I think that becomes more and more critical in this day and age with our many, many, many ways to be distracted drivers. So I guess if that's the county, I would suggest we try to interact with them and you know, whatever it might be, but just something to let people know, because coming from the other direction, you've got a lot, but you come over that hill from the south at 65, 70 miles an hour, and yeah, there's not a lot of room between the crest of that hill and that intersection.
No.
Yep, no, we can certainly present that to the county and see, I don't know in terms of we do these things based on the manual on uniform traffic control devices, so I'm sure they'll want to kind of study that issue, but certainly, as you say, would seem appropriate that some kind of notice would be up on a sign there.
Yeah,
as well.
it just kind of occurred to me as I thought about the situation there, that might be helpful, but anyway.
Maybe at that time, we might want to bring up a speed issue, see what their thoughts are too. I mean, it certainly can't hurt. If everybody's comfortable, then.
Okay, any other comments or questions, council? Good discussion, good job. Anyway, I guess we're on to a motion to approve Resolution 2317, a resolution approving an agreement for Traffic Safety Improvement Program funding by the City Council. Motion, please.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mark, seconded by Dana. Any discussion, further discussion, council? All right, this one will require a voice vote. Mark?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
And Dana?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. Now, the one we've been all waiting for since last year. The fiscal year 2023 amended and fiscal year 2024 municipal budget proposal review by Creighton Schmidt, Director of Finance and Administrative Services. Welcome, Creighton.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm excited by the large turnout for the budget meeting. And I assume there's a few more watching online, right, Jennifer? A strong few.
Your wife?
I assume you all have your budget books and read them thoroughly over the weekend. So nothing I'm going to say here is new to you. But I have a few items to go over here, and then we will go through the slideshow. Gary's, I think, were you saying you wanted it extra long before the meeting here?
You're lucky there's not a ball game tonight.
Okay, sounds good. The proposed tax rate for the city of Clear Lake is proposed to decrease from $9.70 to $9.65. This will be the first reduction in the city's tax rate since the 2019 fiscal year. And so it stayed even at that 9.7 cents then. Prior to that, it was at the $9.80 per $1,000 of taxable valuation. The taxable valuation, again, was very healthy for the city, increasing for fiscal year '24 to $808 million, which was up $62 million, an increase of over 8% from fiscal year '23. In the '23 amended budget and the '24 budget, total expenditures for each of those years, $20.6 million for '23 and $19 million for '24. The remaining schedule here, of course, the schedule has been adjusted because of the change at the state level. Originally, the budget was due on March 31st, but it's been pushed back to April 30th. So tonight, we are adopting a preliminary budget and setting the date for a public hearing for our next meeting on April 3rd. On March 23rd, a notice of the public hearing will be published in the paper. On April 3rd, at our next meeting, we will adopt the FY '23 amended and the FY '24 budget proposal. And then a week or so after that, I will certify the budget to the county auditor. So on, yes?
Before you move on, just so I've got it clarified for our motion, the public hearing will be April 3rd then.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just an overview of the city budget process, which you're all familiar with. We started back in October when I sent a template of the overall budget to all of our department heads. Many of them have already compiled a lot of estimates for different needs they have in their department at that time. It also shows the last 5 years of history, so they're able to look at that while they're compiling their needs for their department. From there, they present those needs and different expenditures to Scott and myself, and we kind of filter those into the needs that we feel like are the best setup to reach our goals. From there, we go back to the department heads, make a few adjustments, and then we present it to the council. After that, we get our revenues, we start estimating the revenues, align them with expenditures, figure out what that means for fund balances, and then come back to the council. After that, we end up where we are today. We're reviewing it in this meeting, and we will do so again next meeting. Go to the next slide, Jennifer. So here we have our fiscal year '24 expenditures, total budget of just over 19 million. 10.85 of that is our operating budget. We have capital budget of just over 7 million and debt service of 900,000. This slide just shows how those expenditures are allocated through our different departments. Public safety, there you go, Pete, coming in first place at 26%. Public Works and Culture and Recreation are in second there at 18%. General Government, 11%. And then the rest of our departments spread out, as you see on the graph. So as we look at some of our major capital projects going into '24, the South 15th Street Park, known as the Everybody Plays Park. Of course, they've started work on that, and that will go into next year, hopefully finishing sometime in September, October timeframe. A few of the other ones, the City Hall building safety improvements, and that's one we've been working on for the past couple of months now. There's definitely safety concerns as far as the accessibility for anyone to walk into the office and kind of have full reign. There's not many things blocking someone from having that access, so that is our main priority in that project, is creating a safer environment. Water tower, painting one of the water towers there that faces where you can see it on I-35. You can see lots of rust at this point. That one needs to be addressed, so that's one of the bigger projects. Getting a new fire truck, so that's always exciting. We ordered it, how many months ago? Eight months ago, probably? Probably about 8 months ago, and we'll get it in another 12. So that one's about 18 weeks out type of project, but we are excited to get that one next year. Another plow truck, which Jeremy will be excited for him and his team. The alley and sidewalk improvements that we've continued throughout the years. Phase 2 of the overlay project, that one's getting started with the concrete work here coming up soon, and the asphalt overlay will all be in fiscal year '24. The Highland Drive, West 17th, 18th, that area, street resurface will take place next year. We are working on an outdoor pickleball and basketball facility, Parks Department, another tractor, and then, of course, our surf district. There'll be a lot of different contributions that we'll be making within fiscal year '24 there as we get that project rolling. Total revenues, this is the breakdown of the revenues that the city is expecting to receive in fiscal year '24. Always in first place, property taxes, 40%. Other taxes, about 30%. Charges for services, 18%. And then all the rest of the miscellaneous ones you can see up there. Property taxes is always the lead there. The other taxes comes, as you see, it also includes TIF, but it's local option tax, hotel motel tax, those type of things. In the general fund, we have projected revenues of 9.6, anticipated expenditures of 12 million, with a projected ending cash balance of 5.7 million. So the last few years, that balance has kind of been growing. One of the reasons, I know we took out bond for the Everybody Plays, and we haven't spent that money, so that has kind of contributed to the growth in the general fund, but we'll start getting it back to normal levels, which is kind of this 5.7 number. So a very healthy ending cash balance there. We also have reserve funds, so public safety equipment. So even though we're buying a fire truck this year, we are not tapping into that fund, in that reserve fund at all, because fire trucks aren't going to get any cheaper. And in a few more years, we'll probably buy an even more expensive fire truck. So we are able to purchase that without using any of that reserve fund balance. We also have $400,000 in the South Lakeview Drive project. When you look at the general fund and where the revenues come from out of the general fund, largest amount here, of course, is also property taxes, and then those other taxes and charges for services comes in third. Here's Scott's favorite slide. For fiscal year '23, the property tax rate, of course, was $9.70. There's actually 103 cities now in Iowa with a population over 4,000. And Clear Lake had the 4th lowest city tax rate. So you can see some of the other lowest rates on there and where we stack up. But as we look towards the amount that the city taxes the properties here, it is in a very favorable position when compared to other cities in Iowa. And then you see some of the highest tax rates, and you see some of those are more than double of what ours are. So a very good picture for those who own property here in the city. This graph shows the valuation of McKesson, actually, and what their property tax rates that go to the city of Clear Lake versus if it were in Mason City. So this is just the city tax rate, so our 9.7 versus Mason City's $14. And so as you can see there, in 1 year, they would pay $293,000 if they were in Mason City, but being located in Clear Lake saves them about $90,000. So it's very advantageous for businesses as well to own property here rather than other cities around us or other cities around the state that have higher rates. And this next slide takes into account the total consolidated tax rate and what that means for the same size building. So almost $800,000 if it were located in Mason City, and $615,000 per year when it's located in Clear Lake. So there, it's a much bigger discrepancy, of course, and this shows the total picture. So again, very advantageous to be in Clear Lake. Total tax bill components. So I know, even before I worked at the city, I just paid my property taxes. I didn't worry about where they went to. And so sometimes people can think they're paying their property taxes and it's all going to the city, or maybe they think it's all going to the schools. But this shows you the actual breakdown of where the $29.29 goes. So 38%, so the highest portion of that pie ends up going to our Clear Lake schools. For the city, our portion is 33%, so a third of what you pay is going to the city. That's that 9.7 that we talk about. The county is getting 20% of that, and then we have two other entities of note, the Clear Lake Sanitary District at 5% and NIAC at 4%. Here, again, this is Scott's second favorite. Sixth place here, but still very, very good out of those 103 cities. We have the sixth lowest consolidated tax rate. So that's the total tax rate that you're paying on your property at the 29.29. So you can see there the lowest rates and where we stack up. Very good. Number 6. And then again, I guess no one's quite double, but you're getting close to it in some of these other cities across the state. Property tax valuation. So as I talked about briefly earlier, total taxable valuation, $808 million, increase of $62 million. So that's an 8.37 increase. So a very healthy increase. Again, one of the top increases in the state. A lot of states, or a lot of cities in the state aren't increasing much at all. So an 8.37 is a very healthy number there. The rollback, which has been an item of discussion down at the state level, this is what has held us up in the budget process. But the rollback for fiscal year 23, 54.13, and for 24 is 54.65. Again, this is the residential rollback. So basically, if you own a home and the value is $100,000, you're only paying tax on $54,000. Basically, and the same for 23 and 24. It did increase slightly in 24, but that's what the residential rollback is. And so that's the one item that they were having trouble with down at the state level, where they had set it at about 56.5 and decided that they made an error and that it should have been 54.65. So that's where we landed. That's what's held us up, but here we are. This total assessed valuation. So this is the total value of the property. The taxable takes into account those different rollbacks, but the total assessed valuation in the city, $1.3 billion. And you can see the graph there, very healthy growth there, and that just shows the last 12 years. But you can see the valuations within the city continuing to rise, so a very healthy and positive outlook for the city. The largest taxable valuation class is residential for Clear Lake at coming in just over 70%. Next is commercial at 22%. Multi-residential is actually a part of residential now. That is where the big hiccup was down at the state, was calculating that correctly. So when we look at this moving on to next year, we'll have all of that kind of combined into just over 72%. This gives you a picture of what your tax bill change would be. So this looks at a house that's valued at $200,000. So your tax bill change would be a very slight increase at $4.79, and that just has to do with that residential rollback at the state level, going from that 54.1 to the 54.6. So even though our levy amount went from 9.7 to 9.65, it's a slight increase, but that did help, of course, keep that increase down to a minimal number. Commercial would actually see a decrease of $9 because their rollback is 90% and it remains flat at the 90%, so they do get a decrease. This just shows the property, how the property tax dollars are spent by areas of service. So public safety, again, coming in first, public works and cultural recreation, both at 17%, and then the rest of the areas are kind of split up there. So when you look at that $9.65, it is comprised of 4 different levies. The general fund levy at 7.399, the tort levy, which is insurance, at 0.39737, employee benefit levy, so our health insurance for our employees, 1.35, and debt service at 0.5. Our general fund levy at 7.399 is unique because there's a maximum levy at $8.10 throughout the state, and 91 of the 103 cities that have that population over $4,000 are at that 810 limit. So most cities start there. They're at that 8.10 and they're not dropping. But we are able to maintain a general fund levy that is less than that 810 limit. This is a decrease from fiscal year 23 rate, and you can see the prior year rates there. And then we kind of already discussed the different departments that this impacts. So again, that tort levy, that is the property and liability insurance premiums for the city, and that comes in at a 0.39737. It is a decrease in the overall rate, but our actual insurance costs for the year will be going up. Like most things these days, they have also been impacted by inflationary pressures throughout our economy, so we will see an increase in our actual rates. Employee benefit levy, same thing here. So a slight decrease in that levy, but our actual cost of health insurance premiums are expected to rise this year, somewhere in that neighborhood of 10 to 15%, partially because of the inflationary pressures, and then partially because how much our plans have been used by our employees this year. Debt service levy. This is the 0.50. It's also a decrease from last year, and you can see the prior rates up there as well. And what we currently have in the debt service levy, we have our bond for the Wellness Center, the land acquisition bonds, which were for the Old Woodford property and the South 15th Street property. And then we have the $1.3 million bond that was issued for the Everybody Plays Park. Debt capacity, I don't know, maybe. Scott, is this your first favorite?
This could be my favorite.
This is probably actually your favorite. Move the other 2 down. Debt capacity is limited to 5% of our assessed valuation. Our capacity for fiscal year 24 would be $68 million. And at the end of fiscal year 24, we'll be sitting at $2.5 million. So we'll be back down to the 3.7 number, Mike.
It's good.
Good, okay. So very positive here. Of course, I think in the book it talks about many recommend that cities operate in that 60 to 70%, but we've done really well to stay ahead of, to almost be debt-free in the city at that 3.7 number. And doing so also allows us, when opportunities arise, to take advantage of them and take on bigger projects, which is what we're looking at, of course, in the SURF district. Mm-hmm. So this number will change, of course, but right now, a very positive outlook for.
Yeah, and I was just going to comment too, Creighton. You might comment on the cost of that debt is incredibly negligible.
Yes. Total bond average is still under 1%.
Right.
So we're really making money there because the money that we have in the bank, even in our savings account, is over 2%. And then obviously we do CDs as well, and they're approaching 5%. So we're doing very well in terms of kind of investing some of that money.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd just chime in on that one. I think I've shared with you before, Mason City, for example, I think they're about 65.
Yeah.
That's considered quite good. 3.7, they'll throw you out. That's, that's not considered
Yeah.
aggressive enough.
Road use tax. Our estimated revenue is just under $1 million there, and that is driven by your population. So we're at $130 per capita rate in fiscal year '24. I'm a little disappointed. The mayor's not here just because he always asks if that's a per capita rate. Is that based on your population? And yes, it is. Local option tax. We have, of course, we have the 7% sales tax, and 1% of that is the local option sales tax. And so based on an estimate from the state, fiscal year '24 revenues are expected at $1.785 million. And that one's been growing very healthy the last few years. So even just a couple of years ago, that was more in the 1.5 range, and it's taken, actually even during 2020, 2021, that one has continued to rise. Same with hotel motel tax. So 2019, before COVID, was a record year, and now within this last year, we're kind of breaking all those records for hotel motel. And of course, with the addition of the Fairfield, that only helps out as well. So our fiscal year '24 total estimated revenue is $580,000. And then this shows a breakdown of where those hotel motel tax dollars are spent. So the chamber gets 42.6 of those, North Iowa Corridor 14%, and city 14%, lake restoration 22%, and then the rest goes to recreation or cultural facilities. Utility rate adjustments. So we will have another adjustment of 3% this year, which is the max that our code allows currently. CPI, of course, 21 was 7%, 22 is 6.5%. We don't adjust it by that total CPI, we cap it out at 3%, so we'll be at a 3% increase again. These are just the estimated utility revenues, really kind of just driven by that 3% increase. And these are the estimated utility rates, so just a 3% increase across the board there.
I'd only just add to that, it probably wasn't that long ago, or were you thinking a 3% was probably a lot in that, and now I'm thinking that 3% isn't enough.
Yeah, 3% might be one of the smallest increases you'll experience, unfortunately, in your personal budgets. So that is all we have for the slides there. Any questions or any further input, Scott? That was pretty quick,
Right on time.
About right on time.
Council, any questions or comments?
I think I just appreciate the presentation, Creighton, so thank you, and Scott for all the work you do with the budget, Jennifer, all our staff. I think, one of the observations I made in just you reviewing that is the constant steady growth in valuations, very impressive, right?
Definitely.
And I think it's a testament to the investments that we've made as a community and as a city in our amenities, in our infrastructure, prudent use of debt, things like that, that, wouldn't you say, contributes to a very steady rise in that number because people want to be here. They want to buy property here.
Right, yeah. The if it's not an attractive place, then of course people wouldn't be coming here.
Yeah.
And then that number would start to decline. So because of the investments that you all have made, it has allowed those valuations to continue to grow over the years.
Yeah, and I would just say, again, I'm very proud that we've made some very prudent investments so that we're still able to lower the tax rate and do things like that. So to me, it's very impressive, you know. Thank you.
Any others? I've got a couple of comments.
All right.
First of all, that was number 16. Sat through, and that was
Got
the-
them all on a shelf in his library, and he looked.
that was the best ever. Yeah, I mean it's beyond compare. So. No, seriously, good job. You know, it just looks good from a lot of standpoints every year. I do have to take a little umbrage at Scott's comment there that the 3.7 is not considered aggressive enough, and I'm sure Scott's working on fixing that.
I'm setting you up for later down the road.
Yeah, I know what's coming. I know what's coming, and at least a couple of us sitting at this table think that was plenty. But and I would also like to point out to Scott that at least in the last 16 years, we've got a heck of a lot done for almost no debt, and I think. At some point in the future, when I'm no longer doing this, that might be the thing I walk away from this situation being the proudest of. Because I think we've been very good stewards of the taxpayers' money here in Clear Lake. And I think we've been able to yield a tremendous amount of value for the tax dollars spent. You know, the old Rolodex in my mind, and that ages me a little, I guess, is spinning around at some of the many accomplishments in terms of building and upgrading public facilities and road repairs and sewer repair upgrades, on and on and on and on. And the fire truck was brought up. And I would like to also remind people that when that thing finally does show up down the road, I'm pretty sure we're just going to write the check and no debt. And we've had a wonderful plan set for large ticket item purchase for many years now. And I think that's another thing that's helped keep this debt at bay. And when we do run into a circumstance where we have something we need to buy because something else just died, the money's usually there, and we can once again write the check and not have to go out and borrow a bunch of money and bond for it. So congratulations to the council, congratulations to the administration, and congratulations to the city of Clear Lake for generally across the board being very supportive of the efforts of the city. I mean, let's face it, lady and gentlemen, this is a great place to live. So thank you, Creighton.
Thank you.
I would like to add to that too, Creighton, before you sit down. This has been the shortest budget meeting I think we've ever encountered.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, I do. Kudos to you and Scott. I know it's a lot of work going into this.
The number you have dialed has not been recognized.
Gary's dialing the phone up on his feet there.
Yeah, I got the phone on my feet here. Anyway, kudos. You didn't want to, as other department heads have done too, in setting their budgets. They've done a great job this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you ought to have Creighton do that at Lions Club.
Oh, he will.
Okay. Get the more condensed version. All right. Okay, I guess we are at the point where I need to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 23-18, a resolution setting the date for a public hearing, which my understanding is will be April 3rd, on the proposed budget amendment for the fiscal year 23 amended and fiscal year 24 proposed budgets for the city of Clear Lake, Iowa, and directing publication of public notice to that effect. So, motion please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bennett, seconded by Mark. Any discussion, council? Okay, I'll ask for a voice vote. Mike, yes. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. C, 15th Street Everybody Plays Park and Playground Project. Mr. Flory, update.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion there, Mike.
Oh, doggone it. Thank you.
I think that's just an error in the agenda.
Oh, yeah, the First Amendment. So that one isn't really there, right?
Correct.
That's not there?
It threw me so much that I missed it. I missed the phantom item. All right, moving on. Mr. Flory.
Yep, jump in here. I don't have much on this. The blue sheets here in your packet on this one. So it's the pay application number 2 to Dean Snyder Construction for the South 15th Street Everybody Plays Playground Park project. This application is the amount of $77,135.17. The work includes $2,810.88 for just general conditions, mostly review time by the contractor on shop submittals and things like that. Second item is for stored materials for the roof, so roof sheet metal and those kinds of things. So that's $19,111.47. And then the final item that you'll note there is $59,272.56. That's for site work, for storm work, and manholes and underground utilities. So adding all of those together, you get $77,135.17. That combined with the previous pay estimate that we approved last month, we have remaining contract amount of $1,878,792.83 left on this one. So as Creighton mentioned, we're starting to get some bills on that, and that will start getting bigger and bigger pay estimates as the weather improves. So we do have a construction conference tomorrow with the contractor on that, if anybody's interested in attending. I think they're 2 o'clock here at City Hall. So, but other than that, I don't have anything further.
Any questions of Scott? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to approve pay estimate number 2 in the amount of $77,135.17 to Dean Snyder Construction. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion by Gary, a second by Dana. Any discussion, council? Okay, I think the voice vote will do on the, or the, all in favor. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Now, item D, Emerald Edge Upgrade Street Lighting Improvement Project, review of pre-construction conference from 3/8/23 and change order number 1 by Jeremy Kornberg, Public Works Director. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. So just a quick review of the pre-con meeting we had last week. Went over a few things with the contractor. They plan on getting started today, tomorrow, or this week, early this week. We were out there today with doing some staking and getting everything set up at our pre-con. We did go over a couple things which triggered the first change order. The control cabinet that they use for these lights, which includes the meter socket, the breakers, contactors, photo eyes, all that stuff. The lead time on the specified one in the original project would have put that out at the earliest in October. So in discussions, we came up with a shrink-down version. Meter socket will have all the same capabilities, one single photo eye like we like to use on those so that all the lights are coming on at the same time. And they'll be able to get that a lot sooner so that we'll have lights this spring rather than in the fall. Good thing with that is it actually comes with a deduct to the overall price of the contract. I think it was like a $4,600 deduct. But same functions, it's just it's a painted steel cabinet instead of a stainless steel cabinet. But it'll function the same. Actually, it'll be a little bit smaller. So other than that, not too much. Like I said, they hope to be starting here possibly tomorrow, starting to set light bases. So other than that, I don't have anything else. I guess we're just looking for the approval on the change order.
Questions, council? Okay, moving on. I guess we need a motion to approve change order number 1, which will actually decrease the contract amount by $4,650 to a new contract total of $95,190 for the Emerald Edge Lighting Project. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gary, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Chief of Police report. No report tonight, thank you. Public Works Director's report. Jeremy?
Nothing unless you have any questions. Probably got some good money for pothole and street sweeping, so.
There you go. Yep, good. Any questions of either of these gentlemen? All right. Creighton, you don't want to run through the budget again? All right. I mean, that was a lot of hard work, so I can see why you'd want to do it again, but you'll probably get another opportunity next week, so just hang on to that. Okay, we don't have any of our normal reporters out there in audience land, and for the mayor's report, we have a proclamation that we have been requested to read in support of Mason City Youth Hockey and their, from what I'm getting out of this, over 40 years of existence and serving the youth of North Iowa. And I do recall that we have at least one gentleman over there whose boys were quite actively involved with that for many years, Mr. Sorensen. And so he could probably tell us all kinds about things about that and having witnessed the many changes to it. But anyway, we'll move on with the proclamation, so please bear with me. Whereas the Mason City Exchange Club in 1972 assisted in the launch of Mason City Youth Hockey with physical and financial support, starting an organization that operated outdoor ice sheets for 11 years. And whereas Mason City Youth Hockey in 1980 to 83 partnered with several organizations, including North Iowa Fair Board and Cerro Gordo County, to raise funds to construct a facility that would serve ice activities and fair activities for the next 37 years. And whereas Mason City Youth Hockey operated the ice operations without public aid and grew youth enrollment in ice hockey by 100% for over 40 years. And whereas Mason City Youth Hockey has operated with a dedicated volunteer staff and board of directors to endeavor and accomplishment of its objectives of supporting both youth and the community enjoyment of ice sports. And whereas Mason City Youth Hockey has provided programming for youth from multiple cities and counties in North Iowa, and through the years provided ice for activities including North Iowa figure skating, public skating, and adult hockey leagues. Now, therefore, I, Mike Callanan, Mayor Pro Tem of Clear Lake, do hereby proclaim March 25th, 2023 as Mason City Youth Hockey 50th Anniversary Day in recognition of this important anniversary. Thank you. City Administrator.
Just one item tonight, Your Honor, just a pink sheet in your packet. I just wanted to bring your attention to that. There's the, what they call now community project funding requests, and we made one to Congresswoman Ashley Hinson for the 4th Avenue South multimodal corridor project, as we're calling it, for funding assistance that would help us study that corridor to make improvements to that in terms of lane reconfiguration, bike trails, sidewalks, street lighting, all those kinds of issues. These requests are the there used to be the earmarks, if you remember the earmarks, then they went away for a while. Now they have kind of come back as a different form, and they call that community project funding request. Now I think every member of Congress gets like 10 or 15 of these requests that they can kind of advance along. So we're one of many in her congressional district, of course, to make a funding request. I don't know how many she'll get, but I'm sure could be in the hundreds. Yeah, it'd be a lot. Yeah, so we're hopeful that our project will be evaluated well by her staff and advanced on to the appropriate federal departments. So just, if anybody has any questions, be happy to take those.
Any questions on that, Council? Nope. Anything else for the good of the order?